BBC Sounds. Music, radio, podcasts.
Hello, I'm Jonathan Sutherland and this is the Scottish Football Podcast on Monday the 11th of August, and it has been a weekend of wondrous goals.
As Hatate goes for goal, what a finish that is! Hatate finds the top right corner from just outside the D, side foot, it is outstanding!
Celtic triumph at Pittodrie as Rio Hatate finds the postage stamp, and more drop points for Rangers.
Tavernier to try and earn a point for Rangers. A deathly silence around Ibrox. It's Tavernier to score! Sends McCracken the wrong way and Rangers are level in the second minute of stoppage time.
Dundee denied a famous victory at Ibrox by an injury time penalty, and there was a goal fest in Sunday's other matches.
Hearts have won it surely. It's Stewart Findlay again with a low stooping header, and that has to be a late winner for Hearts at Tannadice. It's 3-2.
A last-minute winner for Hearts, while Hibs and Kilmarnock share the spoils.
The Scottish Football Podcast from BBC Sport Scotland.
We are recording this after doing Sports Scene, so with us this Monday, although it is technically Sunday night, Scott Allan and Michael Stewart. Gentlemen, it has been a weekend of wondrous goals. Which one was the best, Scott?
Hatate for me.
Really?
I'm going to go Hatate. I just think that it was only kind of the only area of the goal he's going to beat Mitov from, and he's managed to find it. He's just finessed it right into that top corner. It was up there between that and Ben Brannan, but I'm going to go with Rio Hatate.
Ben Brannan or Rio Hatate or something else, Michael Stewart?
No, I think I would go with Hatate as well. To be perfectly honest, I think Ben Brannan's a fantastic strike, but the build up and the quality of Hatate's goal, that's what I'd go for.
Okay.
Yeah. What I'm more interested to find out though, Jonathan, is when you're starting your adverts. It was a great voice there earlier on. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Sadly, my BBC contract
your voiceover
won't allow
career.
that. Thank you, Michael.
Yeah.
That's the nicest thing you've ever said to me. I'm getting suspicious.
Well, you're approaching 50. I thought I should be.
I'm 48. Thank you very much.
Is that what the 50 sign was for yesterday?
Yes, I was born on the same day as Sports Scene was first podcast. Isn't that a coincidence? Not quite true, but yes, mildly offensive. Thank you, Michael. Mm-hmm. Let's get stuck into this weekend, shall we? And let's just cut straight to the chase, Michael. Rangers toiling against Dundee. Hearts, 6 points out of 6. Which side poses the biggest threat, if you can call it a threat, to Celtic this season?
Well, I mean, Rangers have got some serious problems, and I think I was, saying last week in terms of, they're continually building on shifting sands at Ibrox ever since they, started in the bottom league, and they've never really built strong foundations, apart from a couple of seasons when Steven Gerrard was there, and it looked like they were really putting strong foundations in place, but then that first wave of selling on a lot of players and there was nothing else behind it, or they didn't recruit particularly well. They've changed managers, continually since then. You think about obviously Van Bronckhorst out the door fairly quickly, Michael Beale, Clement, and now Russell Martin, and it just seems like it's rinse and repeat. And the problem is that every one of them comes in and says the right things, but then the actual actions belittle those words. And I mean in terms of, if you're looking for intensity and energy and desire and grit, then you need to sign the appropriate players. And looking at what's been brought in, that's not what's there.
Who's disappointed you player-wise?
Well, it's not so much disappointed. I mean, it's just, if you're looking to try and do something in a certain way, then you need to recruit to that style. And Russell Martin's style is a real passing-orientated football. But is that really what is needed there at the moment? They need to go and win games of football. They need to show some real grit and determination and desire. And that doesn't mean playing rubbish football. But you look at this Rangers side, where are the leaders?
It doesn't mean one player either at the same time. I think you have to bring in the right sort of players for the system you want to play, exactly what Michael says. But what does that look like? Well, obviously you bring in Atman, who's got real pace, obviously going down the wing. Up until then it was Dill, so that's not necessarily the type of energy you obviously see in the Motherwell game last week, his defensive actions that obviously led to the equaliser. That's the sort of thing. So you're saying you want energy and you want to be expansive in terms of the counter attack. Ant-Man brings you that, but as soon as he's not playing well, who comes on to replace that in the same sort of mould? You just can't see that at this moment in time.
It was electric from Rangers against Victoria Pilsen on Tuesday night.
It's a completely different type of game of football.
So why was it so different against Dundee when it was the same team?
Because Pilsen were out actually, in an not expansive, but they weren't sat in trying to like hold on to something.
Yeah.
Dundee went there and they were defensive, strong, resilient, not looking to open themselves up. They had 3 centre halves that were just lapping up, throwing balls into the box. Rangers, Russell Martin said it after the game in terms of lacking intensity, lacking pace in their play. But I find that, and by the way, he's not wrong, but I find it surprising in terms of, well, what was the message that was out before the game? Because surely they must have recognised that. They've brought in Max Aarons. He played left back, didn't look comfortable. He's played right back, doesn't look comfortable. His positional sense in terms of where he needs to be on the park doesn't really seem to understand. He's blocking off passing lines into Ant-Man. If you want to get these wide guys in the game, you need to give them the ball early. If you're playing against a low defensive block, you can't wait until the team is up on the edge of the box and then pass them the ball, because they've got 10 men round them. You need to give them the ball early. So it doesn't look to be the combination. You've got Joe Rothwell playing in the deep hold in midfield, but his passing is a little bit, lateral, and it's a wee bit too many touches and a little bit slow. I just think that, that it's about big characters, big leaders, and I don't see them in the Rangers team. And to go back to what you were saying before about Hearts and Rangers, you look at Hearts, they've won 2 games, they've not performed brilliantly, but they have shown bucket loads of desire and hunger and running, and they break down a brick wall to try and score. That's exactly what Stuart Finley's done.
The exact things that Russell Martin questioned of his team on the opening day of a season, which is, when you actually look back at that, it's incredible. I think what Mikey talks about in terms of the deep crosses they kept, there was no thought going into anything they were doing once they got to the final third. Speed of the ball out wide, it was lackadaisical, the thrown in, everything was helpful. There was, see, crossing, trying to score goals, and considering Rangers don't carry much threat in terms of the box, and Dundee are happy to just go and head everything. They didn't move them, they didn't suck them out of positions to get in behind. They were totally null and void of ideas as soon as they got into that final third, and at the same time, same things we were saying last season, whenever they come up against a low block they really struggled, and it isn't easy. I've been there, it's hard, but you have to find a way, and you can have all the build up in the world you want in terms of playing through teams, playing through their first press, but 60% of teams now when they come to Ibrox, they are not going to play like that.
Scott, I don't know what your predictions were at the start of the season, but do you have Rangers finishing higher than Hearts this season?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, I do.
Michael, you went through your entire league table last week in the podcast, and you did have Rangers second, didn't you?
Yeah, and what did I say though? I said I think Hearts and Hibs will battle out for third, but the gap between third and second will be closer than it has been previously.
And you're sticking to that?
I am, but the slight caveat is that the concern at Ibrox is quite big, and if it doesn't start to show signs of improvement soon, then I think, what I've seen at Hibs and Hearts over previous seasons, is that the fans' patience is almost nil, because they've been in this rinse and repeat process over the last few years. So even though it's a new person that's coming in the door, the fans are the constant, and when they're not seeing these green shoots of progress and growth, their patience is almost nil. So if it doesn't start to show signs of improvement quickly, there could be an implosion there. And the craziest thing in terms of somebody getting ahead of Rangers is a possibility. It's not the craziest thing in the world. It could happen, but I don't think it will this season, but it could.
Scott, there's been a lot of chat about Celtic after the previous week when they got the 1-0 victory against St Mirren. They got a 2-0 victory against Aberdeen. You see things clicking into life for Celtic in the way that Brendan Rodgers would want it to be?
Yeah, I think Celtic have started the season decent. I don't think for their standards that we've seen last year it's quite the same intensity, but I think there's different challenges there. Obviously going up to Aberdeen today, obviously losing the cup final would have been a sore one, as you can imagine. So they were up there. I felt they played like a team. They moved the ball. They were in complete control. I think obviously seen last night, and you look at some of the stats we've seen with that Aberdeen side in terms of regains in the Celtic half. That's the difference between Celtic and Rangers. Celtic would just be patient and work it side to side, and that's how they got the joy. You'd get your guys who were playing in the advanced midfield roles wanting to run forward. Why? To move the opposition. And that's where, if you look at two teams, there's a difference here, and that's how important the quality at the top end of the pitch is. And at the same time, Brendan Rodgers demanding even more quality at the top end of the pitch, but Celtic at this moment in time, they have a way, they usually find a way to break these sort of teams down, and that's by being patient and switching the ball side to side to side, and ultimately the distances become too big for the opposition and they find a way. And when you have Maeda, guys like that with real pace, your full-backs who want to get and put in balls with real quality, and midfielders hitting the box and scoring goals, that's how you overcome these sort of setups when you're playing against them.
I love the way that you transposed yourself actually into Monday. Even though we're recording this on Sunday night, you still refer to this as last night's sports scene. So you're an intelligent footballer, Scott, and it's shining through.
Well, thank you, Jonathan. I'll take that.
Michael, in terms of Aberdeen fans won't be happy with what they saw today.
It's been a difficult start to the season for Aberdeen. There's no doubt about that in terms of the fixtures that away to Hearts and at home to Celtic. But Aberdeen are guaranteed group stage European football here, and the concern is that even when you're looking at what would be perceived easier league games, we've already seen over the past few seasons that European football can have a lingering effect.
Yeah,
and there's some structural issues that I see in the Aberdeen side in terms of Jimmy Tilleen just is beholden to Hilton Nielsen in the middle of the park. Where does he play Graham Shinney? He's captain. Don't think you can play him left back for the full season, but then don't think you can play him in the middle of the park alongside Nielsen. So
because they
don't have. I mean, they don't have any legs. There's no legs. There's no dynamism. And when I think back to the way Aberdeen played first part of last season, there was, and I know Nielsen was playing a lot of those games, but the general play, there was a speed in their play. It was very sort of formulaic and straightforward. Get the ball into the wide areas quick, let the wide guys go and take players on 1v1. They were promoting plenty of bodies forward as a team. But this is a structural problem that in the middle of the park they'll be overrun. If those two guys play in the middle of the park together, they'll be overrun. Especially when I see the likes of Polvara, Palaversa on the bench. These are guys that I think have got better legs. I think they've got quality as well, and they're better balanced. But that's a big decision for the manager to make because they're two big characters. He's your captain, and clearly Nielsen is a big character as well. But that's what managers have paid for. They've got to make big calls.
If you don't have that physical aspect in the middle of the park in terms of getting up and down, you've got to have an element of control to your play, and they don't have that. And the reason why you have the control when you might not have that dynamism, as Michael talks about, is to offset the fact you don't want them doing that, and then the spaces become that. That's what we've seen. That's what we've seen against Celtic. The game sure. It's too much for them. But we can only base them on what we've seen this season.
So are new signings at Aberdeen urgently required?
Well, I mean, obviously, we're talking about the middle of the park, but that's before we talk about the obvious, problem they've got up front.
Yeah.
Yengi didn't score last season. Doesn't really look like he's going to score this season. Obviously, they're talking about Lazatic. I think is coming in from AC Milan. Yeah. But that's a. We're impossible to say whether that's going to be the solution or not. So, from Aberdeen's perspective, they are really hoping desperately that he brings them something there. So when you're not scoring goals, it puts even more pressure on the rest of the team as well. And like I mentioned before, once you add in the European fixtures, that's just another layer of something that they've got to deal with this season. We'll wait and see. But obviously, I think Tom English had mentioned before that Aberdeen are adamant that this is a 6-window project. So, plenty of time for Jimmy Tilleen to turn it around.
Okay. Sports scene was 50 yesterday, Saturday. This is Monday, everybody's listening to it. Okay. Thanks, Scott.
So does that make you a not very intelligent presenter?
Clearly. Should St Mirren and Motherwell hang their heads in shame for not giving Archie Macpherson a woof moment, Scott? 0-0.
Yeah, I think
it's shameful.
We were all waiting, so we had to get one last night. Listen, I think for me, that was actually the game I was really looking forward to, seeing how the two teams matched up. Obviously, Motherwell showed a completely different style from what we've seen previously. Yes, Vimmer was a bit more in terms of playing out for the goalkeeper, but last week against Rangers, they broke Rangers. It was a case of Rangers' press wasn't very good, but they still had the bravery and the courage to play through, and obviously worked themselves from the box up the way to Rangers' box, could quite easily win that game. So there was a lot of positivity about that performance.
So are Motherwell going to be your surprise package this season?
I don't want to go too early on that one, but I think I was marrying that up with seeing how St Mirren performed. Obviously, aggressive, physical, very well organised. So I was interested to see how that was going to match up at the weekend, and I actually think it's a more positive result for Motherwell in the grand scheme of things.
Let's talk about Hibs, Michael. Everybody coming out with superlatives for Hibernian ever since David Gray really turned things round sort of November time last season, and they have been fantastic. What did you make of them against Kilmarnock at Easter Road? It was a bit Jekyll and Hyde to end up with.
Yeah, it sums it up well. I think obviously David Gray said it himself. You know, first half the game should have been dead and buried, and the second half it was you know, loose and a little bit sketchy, and credit to Kilmarnock because they got themselves right back into it. But yeah, I think all the superlatives that have been ladled on Hibs, you could say the exact same again for 44 minutes until they conceded the goal just before half time, and there's a number of contributing factors there. Obviously in the second half the game, Ben Brannan scores an absolute worldie to get it to 2-2, so the momentum is shifting to Killie again. There's an element of tiredness that's kicking in because of Thursday night, whereas if it's 2-0 and you're going at the half time, you can control the second half and manage it, and you're not having to exert yourself. The game came very stretched. It was like, you know, almost basketball, one end and the other, and it's probably the last thing that they could have, you know, wished for with you know, another huge game at home against Partizan on Thursday night here. So I think just the crucial moment in that game was obviously the goal they conceded right before half time.
Got to talk about Livingston and Falkirk as well, Scott. How sick of the sight of Livingston must John McGlynn be?
Yeah, I think it's a little question, that's his bogey team, but I think at the same time you've got to give huge credit to David Martindale. I should say it was, you know, it was a 3-1 victory, obviously, for Livingston. Yeah, but I think, in case anybody listening doesn't know. If we're looking at it over the space of a calendar year, I think Livingston have changed ways, changed their system a few times when they played. Changed their pitch. Now it looks apparently the best pitch in the Premiership. Fastest AstroTurf in Scotland, supposedly.
It looked lush on the telly, didn't it?
It looked green, which was a start.
But I think they've made some great signings, to be honest. In terms of Falkirk, I'm a little bit worried about Falkirk, looking at them, and I think we all kind of fell in love with them last year in terms of how they've played over the last 2 seasons, seeing these young players who didn't quite make the grade at bigger clubs at the time, and have went with John McGlynn, and they've really grown into their own, and the football, I think, being the biggest attraction. That's why I felt when it's come summer, I felt there'd be a lot of players who actually want to go and join that project and be part of that, but I just think at this moment in time they're still a bit short in defence and up top. Do they need to strengthen at the back, Michael?
Possibly, yeah, possibly, but I suppose it's a difficult one for John McGlynn because they're not going to be blessed with huge funds to go out and recruit and bring, you know, guys in. But I mean, I'm still hopeful, you know, that Falkirk that they'll be all right this season. I think personally, I want to see teams that are like that be rewarded, and without writing the game off against Livy, I think there is an element of they've got Falkirk's number. You know, they do psychologically have the edge over them. They know how to get under their skin and get the better of them. So
even the social media manager did as well.
Yeah, it's very sharp.
Very lively, wasn't it?
Very. Yeah. Impressed by that, Scott?
No, I wasn't actually. I think if I was in the opposition, I'd hate that. I think you're just asking for trouble in these situations, but. Listen, I think David Martindale deserves huge credit because he's made some good signings and he's had a right good start to the season.
Michael, it's been a wondrous week in Scottish football, hasn't it? I mean, it all started with our podcast last week, obviously, which was amazing, and then carried on with the European results. I'm being facetious, obviously, but then 2 Ballon d'Or nominations for Scottish players, and then Sports Scene at 50, and just this weekend of football, which we started up in Dingwall With a gritty match which never quite sparked into life, but St Johnstone got the job done. It's been good. Can this next week possibly live up to that?
Yeah, of course it can. Aye, I mean, if
three teams, wouldn't we?
I know. Aye, if we get three teams through to the knockout stage, the playoff stage of the European competitions, then of course that's well and truly lived up to the previous week. So yeah, it's just a case of trying to finish off the good work that they put in last week.
Time to go home.
Yeah.
Time to go home.
I think so. Time for my advert voice, I should say. That's all we have got time for. Many thanks to Scott Allan and Michael Stewart. Remember, we're here with new episodes of the Scottish Football Podcast bright and early every day. Don't miss out. Subscribe on BBC Sounds and have the push notifications turned on in your phone. Scottish football, the gift that keeps on giving. Thanks for listening.
For everything you need to know about your team this season, download the BBC Sport app. All the latest news, goal updates, stats and scores, and insight and analysis. Just select your club to get the biggest stories and best content at your fingertips. What a result. Download the BBC Sport app for everything you need to know about your team this season.